You guys waited for it, and it's here, so let's begin. I love how you have the red lighting fog up the camera just a bit when it's facing Darth Vader, and every now and then the camera's just a bit out of focus, so you should work on that. Also, you're one of the few animators I've reviewed that can actually properly frame the wider aspect ratios. A big issue I see that is that people just act like everything is just 16:9 but either cropped or something else, and it isn't. When you're dealing with different aspect ratios, you have to frame things differently. So great job with the framing of the lightsaber effects. The force levitation stuff was seamless as well. The voice acting audio though was kind of low quality, so it's not like you need new equipment to fix that. You just need to know how to use your stuff properly. I still use the same phone as my microphone, and I say it only has gotten better over time with no equipment upgrades. So just watch a tutorial on how to make it sound better, and that should work. 8.5 out of 10. The camera is too zoomed in and pretty much the entire thing is out of focus. The best thing you can do now is get a macro lens off of Amazon for basically dirt cheap. The ones I got came in a $12 set for 3 lenses, so with $4 each, it basically does miracles for me. I actually prefer the flat lighting you have since you're dealing with like a 2D stage for the cinematography. And speaking of which, zooming in too much also removes some of the headroom. Also, if your walking cycles are still not good enough, you can cover it up by showing more of the upper torso when they walk more than just the whole body. Also, smart idea of using the screen as the car's background. And I have to mention, this video has a whole vibe that no one can just automatically copy. That means there's some kind of passion to make this video have a specific kind of atmosphere that can really only be done by the person making the video. And having a vibe is not an objective thing, but it's definitely something that can make a video even better. So even though there's a lot of flaws for this video, I still will say it's an 8 out of 10. A video can still be really good even though it's not all the way up there with a technical sense, and that's not a bad thing. The first advice I have for you is to lower the camera a bit in the beginning, and for the video overall, you're better off spending more time looking for sound effects since the ones you used, especially for the wall crashing one, just didn't give the right impact feel, and sound design matters more than you actually think. And this is especially when you're dealing with stuff like toys, since you really have to sell that the stuff that's happening is impactful. This also goes with music, since having no music throughout the scenes also makes it feel like they're more toy. I don't know how to explain it. The shot and blood effects though were actually shockingly good, so I'll give you that. With a little bit of removing and adding frames for a smoother look, mainly for the Rex spinning the gun, I recommend just to work on that and the sound design, and you should be set to go. 6 out of 10. The lighting fogs up a bit of the scenery, so I recommend just adjusting it until it looks clear and add more stuff in the set to give it more life. It could literally be anything, it doesn't even have to be Lego, and the best part is that it would fit the video's tone. There were like 2 characters with the same voice, so at that point either you switch the voice for one of them, or at the very least give them a different kind of speaking mannerism, so they speak differently. And also the effects in this video were actually really good. What this video could have done more to help itself was to exaggerate everything else more, since the video was already about the last soda, so you might as well go and exaggerate the animation while you're at it. Remember, as long as it's not inappropriate, you can basically do anything you want with your video, so you can get as creative as you want, like you did with the lightsaber stuff, but like an extra mile. And that's not really an animation thing you can improve on, that's more of a creativity thing, so just spend more time brainstorming. 7.6 out of 10. Mustard. The biggest issue here is that there's a lot of stuff that could have been cut out. In the beginning, for example, there's a whole sequence of each prisoner one by one entering and then same thing as they're leaving. So you're wasting your time animating that and stretching the runtime. And also, that's not a really good thing you should be doing, since that only delays what people are watching the video for. That only makes the video take longer to animate. This happened several times, which is frustrating because there are a lot of creative stuff that happens in this video, especially in that one angle where you see everything from the ceiling angle. Smart use of the blanket as an ocean too, and then the accidental movements only make it feel more real. Honestly though, your runtime is what's hurting this video more, since this would have been a really fun 1-minute video, but you dragged it all the way to 4 minutes. 5 out of 10. The best part about this video was that the audio was really well done. The quiet parts were quiet, and that only made the louder parts feel louder. This may sound dumb, but that's a good thing to point out, since I've seen a lot of people make the quiet parts to normal volume, and then that makes the loud parts feel extremely loud, and that only actually lowers the quality of your audio, which is the audio equal to like recording a video in 4K and releasing it in 480p, and so you don't want to do that. In some rare parts, I recommend for you to work on the framing. Personally, I also believe it would be better to use something like a black piece of paper for the background, since a gray base plate removes the contrast. One more advice is to buy a cheap macro lens so you can get closer with them without zooming in, since it only lowers your quality of the video. 8 out of 10. The thing that saves this video is that it's actually really entertaining. This is some of the most fun I've had watching a brick film in a long time. Not only is it really creative, but it's also really shot well. The lack of masking would be an issue in other scenarios, but it doesn't distract at all since you're doing a lot of crazy stuff with a giant figure. And that alone would give you a good rating, and the camera work is also excellent here. I also love that you can see the small effort in the subtle animations. Not much else I can say honestly, since this is the best case scenario for your video. 10 out of 10. Comedy is done really well here, so I have no complaints. What would be better off for you is to get rid of the base plate for the majority of the stuff, since it only limits you to look down. Once you free yourself from the base plate, you can do basically whatever you want. So sometimes small upgrades actually limit you instead of making you get better. It's weird advice, but some people might understand what I mean. This specifically would have been better for the parts with the ship. This is also because when you try to sell the illusion of the camera moving in a bigger scene with the rocks moving, the base plate made it look less convincing. To make masking better, spend the time removing everything except the figure with whatever shadow it left. I say this because even though it takes longer, then instead of removing whatever held the figure, it looks so much better. I'm rating you over the potential possible in this video and what you could have done to fulfill it, and the stuff I really said are the main things holding you back. Still, you did a good job. 7 out of 10. I really like what you did with the sets and the environment as a whole. Beginning with the rain wasn't needed, but it proved you were willing to go the extra mile for this video. Every time there's flashing lights, I love that you changed the whole set of lights to make them more impactful. You could have done it with filters, but you still went above and beyond. There are still issues though, like when people are turning around as they walk, they drag their whole body in a 90-degree angle. This occurs throughout the entire video, so it's kind of distracting. This video also has some of the best POV shots I've ever seen in a brick film, so props for that. Also, great job keeping the voice acting quality consistent throughout the entire video. That's actually an achievement with the video this long, which is 40 minutes. The thing that needs more consistency is the lighting and colors. Some scenes are visually edited more than others, so it makes some feel more muddy and gray, and the other ones feel more punchy with contrast, making it lose the consistency. This also happens with the lighting, but that's something you have to fix while you're filming. An interesting thing about this video is that even though it's 40 minutes long, it doesn't feel like any time is being wasted, so all it being long feels appropriate. I think it was over halfway through the video where there was a good shot of the perspective inside of the wires, and I've never seen that done in LEGO before, so great job. 9 out of 10. You can also take some of the advice from the previous review, since you're being held back by the angle and not being able to get close enough to the figures, forcing you to zoom in. Just zoom up for a bit, and also I really like the lighting here. What can be done to improve this is actually by minimizing it. I mean this especially for the electricity part. To make it feel brighter, you should remove some of the lights from behind the guys, just like how I said how quieter parts make a video feel louder when the louder parts happen. This also works visually. The small animations here are also great, like the helicopter opening and the doors as well. For what you wanted to do, you exceeded. 6.5 out of 10. You seem to run on the issue that I have, which is when people are talking, you seem to run out of camera angles. If you run out of camera angles, it's fine to use the same ones as before, but it just means you're gonna have to put more effort into the character's expressions. I might have told you this as well before, but a macro lens would help you. So when you take part of a set out and get closer to the figures, you don't have to zoom in, limiting the camera. When you film low light, make sure the settings for the ISO and the stop motion app are in the lowest, unless it's impossible to film. Instead, use a shutter to change the brightness. ISO artificially makes it brighter, but the shutter actually lets more light into the camera sensor, letting you take high quality photos without losing much quality. That's how I get my videos to look the way they look, even though I'm just basically using an iPhone 14 and an iPhone 11. Get more creative with your lighting, since good lighting makes your sets look better. This is especially for the Batcave and the back row with the Nightwing set right before the end. You did better in the end, but also suffer from the lack of angle issues. It takes time, but it's worth breaking your sets apart so you can get different kinds of angles. Since I could tell you were struggling to take a good angle for Nightwing, and you instead seemed like you were just zooming in from him all the way in the back. I know this sounds very cliche, but there's a lot of things here well done, but you just don't need to improve on a lot. 7 out of 10. I'm keeping in mind that you're trying to go for a very exaggerated style that requires having less frames instead of more. So this was framed really well, so everything was clear and in the right spot. When the guy I assume represents future swishes forward, you need to flip the video since he was aiming at the wrong direction. Even though he was still going to the same destination, there has to be some kind of level of consistent visual language. This is not because I'm assuming everyone that watches your video is dumb. That's not what I mean at all. It's just that it keeps the video more consistent and it makes everything feel more smooth. It's just as important as easing in and out and framing. Keep that in mind. Like if someone's running right, they have to continue being right even if the camera angles change. The sudden switch look you did when characters appear really quickly was really done well for some parts, but in some it needed the extra frame and the very end of the easing in and out system, ever so slight touch of a movement, and it goes a long way even though it's a super small thing. You don't have a major flaw that holds this video down, so the thing you can do now instead is just to continue practicing. 8 out of 10. I really did enjoy this video, but I might have a bias because I was listening to music as I did so, and when I rewatched it without listening to music, I realized that it was a missing factor. The video is great and all, but a good music score is really what it's missing. You can have a great video, but it can still get better if it's polished all the way through. The shot of the door opening with the troopers inside was a great part, and it was also a perfect place to add music. Like as the door opened, the music would have started rising up, and stuff like that gives you endless possibilities. Despite that, the video was filmed really well, and all the camera work felt very purposeful. Nothing there felt accidental. The part that felt somewhat off is when the troopers were walking, you couldn't see their legs, but they still felt like they were sliding instead of walking. If you don't want to have your figures do the walking cycle and you want to record them from above, what you have to do is that you have to make it slightly choppy on purpose, since it makes it feel way more natural. If you make them walk too smooth, it's gonna ruin the illusion. But outside of all of that, it's so obvious that this video is a 9.9 out of 10. It's almost perfect, but it does not mean the video is not an absolute blast. Like, I seriously recommend this video for you guys.
Hey you guys, this is where we got the Poke car at. We're gonna wind up redoing this door though.
The voice acting is good and all, but what's holding you back is the set designs. The set designs look all the same and they lack creativity. You can't blame this on the lack of resources, since switching locations doesn't need to be Lego. You could use colored paper as well. Not only that, but it also makes it look more distinct if you do that. And the cherry on top, it makes everything look way more fun, which would match this video more since the choreography was really well done. Same thing with the comedy and the fighting. It's what's keeping your score up, and the same thing goes with the lightsaber animations. Add more of a flavor to your set designs and you're set to go for a higher score. 7 out of 10. The set designs here were really unique and I adore what you tried doing with it. The voice acting was also excellent. To top it all off, the animation was really pleasant actually. That's the best words I can use for it. The J. Jonah Jameson joke where he calls out Spider-Man and he really had nothing to say was actually really funny. It actually got me. It's not all just animation that counts, but things like that make the video feel more lively. Just like the guy before, colored paper might help you out, but for a completely different reason. This video already has a diverse look, but when you draw on your paper, colors don't pop out all the way. It looks really well on the floor though, but it's not on that level on the walls. This doesn't automatically mean you have to take it all off. Maybe for the part that are colored on the walls, you can instead have cutouts that are made out of colored paper. Or you can also put more time into the drawing. Whatever it takes to make them look less washy, but it doesn't really affect your score. That's just me being nitpicky because this video was really entertaining. 9.5 out of 10. Before you film, try to warm up your voice since it's really monotone and removes a lot from the video. I know I'm not one to talk, but there's a difference between monotone and serious. The animation on its own is pretty good and the story is paced really well and the speed adds to the tension. When you have Darth Vader use the Force, you fall for the issue I've already warned others about, which is instead of masking everything outside of the object, he seems to just mask what's holding it, and it makes it look a little bit messy. Back with the voice, it gets really quiet at times, which doesn't help the monotone issue. And this is not a talent thing with vocals, since I myself sound very monotone, but I try to adjust myself to sound more expressive. 7 out of 10. This is more what I mean with energy and voice acting. It doesn't have to be all crazy, but you can definitely hear the energy in this expression. Being honest, what makes a video is 85% just its energy. You can have a very clean video that looks like Earthbound, but it won't truly be great if there's not a personal spark of passion. This is especially for simple videos. There are parts in the animation that feel like the frames were missing, but the fun in the dialogue made up for it. I promise I wasn't aware of the joke where I get called out, and also the video's tone was a very whimsical comedy and it made it really enjoyable, so no criticism in the story itself there. Just work on the easing in and out and you should honestly be set to go. But the real best advice is just continue making videos like this. 9.5 out of 10. There's parts that need more camera focus, so for that I just recommend to get a macro lens. I know I've repeated myself with this so much, but it's honestly such good advice since it makes the camera of your phone treat the Lego toys like if they're full-sized humans on camera. It balances out the field and gives you more options. I like the positions of the characters' movements, but either you should add more frames to transition from one pose to another or keep it that way but just make it more exaggerated. Not because it needs to be all jumpy, but it just needs to be less stiff. I say this because I'm aware not all videos need a cartoony style. Camera focus is your biggest impactful flaw since the rest of everything is well put together. I haven't mentioned it yet, but you can tell the set designs were really well done and a lot of time was put on them. Some were small, but it didn't change the fact that they felt lived in, which I failed to do actually, and that really boosts the score since that makes the videos feel way more unique. 8.5 out of 10. No way this was intentional since you've probably never been told this before, but this video accidentally follows the 60-30-10% rule for color palettes. 60% of the video uses green as a primary color, 30% uses yellow for the secondary color, and 10 uses white as the accent color. I'm proud of myself for catching that, but bravo for you for doing this if you did this on purpose. The flip from Jar Jar Binks was really well done, and the same thing goes with the choreography as a whole. The framing and the animation gets a little bit choppier when you spin the set, but honestly that doesn't affect the video at all because it's just so fun. This video had an idea and plan, and it did it in the most fun way possible, and no changes could have been done to make it more fun. I also love how elegant this Darth Vader figure looks when the cape goes off. This was a blast. 10 out of 10. The use of color was very minimal here, but when it was used, it felt far more impactful. Having basically nothing for the set design was actually a good move here since it only added for the horrific lonely feeling you were adding. All the hand-drawn effects were excellently executed, zero complaints there. Same thing goes with the voice acting. This is something I honestly recommend for the rest of you guys to watch since it was basically perfect with what I wanted to do. It's rare to have two 10 out of 10s in a row. You guys should take notes on this. Okay, this is a great place to finish the video. If I told you you were gonna be on this and you weren't, that means I just honestly forgot since I redid this video to make it way bigger since my brake film took a lot of time. Anyways, see you guys next time.